Save the trees, idiot! This message is sponsored by Mazda SUVs, IHOP, Minions, Tumblr, and disposable diapers. Those are all great for the environment. The Lorax, not to be confused with the Lorax, or the Lorax. Dr. Seuss is one of the world's most famous children's authors. But in terms of the movies based on his books, they have a reputation for not being as good as Citizen Kane. Out of all these movies, I felt like singling out the Lorax, because it seems to have become kind of nostalgic for my generation. And also it came out 10 years ago today, and it's Dr. Seuss's birthday. Our story starts in Thneedville, a town where all the grass and trees are fake and people buy their air. And they see nothing wrong with it. In fact, they have an upbeat musical number about how Thneedville is better than your hometown, and also how much they love to shop, consumerism. But let's focus on this guy in particular, Ted Wiggins. He wants to go out and find a real tree because he really cares about impressing his crush, Audrey. So Ted leaves town to talk to the Onceler, the man responsible for chopping down all the trees and creating the Tumblr Sexy Men wiki. He tells Ted about when he was a dashing young man, excited to change the world with his new invention, the Thneed. So naturally, when he finds the tree with the perfect material for the Thneed, he chops all of them down without replanting any of them. The Lorax, a magical forest creature who speaks for the trees, keeps yelling at the Onceler to stop because it's not good for the environment. But it's not even good for business either. Also, Ted's being chased by the government, because according to the corrupt mayor, no one is allowed to leave town, so I would imagine that the wanderlust there is off the charts, just like the regular lust. Buy a sports car, I dare you! One of the most controversial things about this movie is the marketing. Despite all the messages against corporate greed and pollution, they use the Lorax to promote over 70 different products. And it doesn't really help that this movie was made by Illumination, the studio behind the Minions, and whose mission statement involves making their movies as profitable as they can. What if they also burned a hole in the ozone layer just for kicks? Also, I've seen people complain about the soundtrack, which mostly consists of modern pop songs. This is kind of the movie equivalent of that one trash can where there's a hole for trash and another hole for recycling, but it all just funnels into the trash can. Now with that being said, I kinda like it. That's not to say it's a masterpiece or even good, I mean, you probably heard what I just said. But there definitely are some good things about it. It's colorful, well animated, some of the comedic timing is pretty good. The message is good if you ignore the surrounding context of the movie. It's nostalgic to me, and I like how Ted and Audrey are named after Dr. Seuss and his wife. With regards to the soundtrack, I don't know if Dr. Seuss himself would have liked it, but I personally think it's okay. I will not elaborate, I don't know how to analyze music. Though I do think it would be better if they didn't replace Biggering with How Bad Can I Be. That was the one and only Lorax movie. There's only one. Oh! So before the full-length Dr. Seuss movies from the 2000s and later, there were Dr. Seuss animated TV specials from mostly the 1970s, starting with How the Grinch Stole Christmas in 1966. I remember having a collection of these on DVD as a kid, and this was the reason I wore turtlenecks when I was around 5. Among these cartoons was an adaptation of The Lorax, which came out less than a year after the book. I haven't read it because I don't have it and I don't feel like spending an extra $5, but from what I can tell, it's pretty much one-to-one with the cartoon. Dr. Seuss himself was directly involved in it. So how does it compare to the new movie? Well, for starters, it's only 30 minutes instead of 90, so no Thneedville, no corrupt mayor, the Onceler doesn't split up his story throughout multiple days for no reason. Also, he never shows his face, and that was intentional to demonstrate that anyone could become as corrupt as him if they're not careful. Well, I mean, I used to think he was the same species as the Grinch or something because he's a green man, but I appreciate the sentiment. It hits the ground running with an unnamed kid character walking up to the Onceler's tower to listen to his story. At the end, it hits the ground running again, but in the opposite direction because it's the end. When the Onceler gives the kid the seed, instead of taking the new movie's approach and also having a car chase and a musical number about why you should plant the seed, it just ends after the kid gets the seed, as if to say, it's up to you to make the right decision. So, am I saying it's better than the new movie? Yeah. It's only 1/3 as long, but it has all the most important parts of the story, and it tells them in a more nuanced way. Also, it was produced by a guy who worked on Looney Tunes, and the soundtrack is Baroque pop instead of contemporary pop. But most importantly, it's a cartoon from the 70s. I like those. They kinda inspired this art style that I'm using right now. In conclusion, trees are actually dumb and stupid unless your crush happens to like them for some reason.